is Sally Ride? She is most well known to be the first American woman in space, but through my research, I found that her life was so much more interesting than just that one fact. So, I'm going to explain to you the pre, during, and post days of her NASA career. Starting with her pre NASA days, the first super interesting thing I found was that she was almost a professional tennis player. She played tennis from 1965 to 1970 and decided to stop pursuing her tennis career to go into the field of sciences, where she started studying at Stanford University at 1969, and by 1978 she had graduated with a bachelor's degree in physics and English, a master's of science degree, and a doctorate in physics. And when she was graduating, there was an ad in the paper that was from NASA looking for a well-trained physicist, essentially, someone who was very well versed in the science fields for mission control to go into space. And she decided to apply, and she ended up being one of 6 women that NASA chose to be their first women for space. And through this, I actually found that in 1950, I believe, 1959 to 1960, that NASA started to have women in space and decided against it until they hired on the 6 women in 1978, which included Sally Ride. So after that, she started her year-long training at NASA, and this is where her NASA career started. She had a year-long training that started in 1978 and ended in 1979, and this also included an evaluation period by NASA, and that is where she then was able to take on the position of an on-orbit capsule communicator. And this was a ground control mission for a space shuttles that were going up into space. So she was helping communicate with them on the ground. And then her most famous venture was the 1983 Challenger mission, where it was the first time she went into space, and that was the first American woman that had ever gone into space. And she helped do things with the mechanical arm that is on the spaceship, and she also was part of the team that had the first successful launch of satellites for Canada and Indonesia. It was the first successful deployment and retrieval in space for those satellite systems for communicating. Her second space expedition shuttle was also in the Challenger in 1984, and this also received her the title of first American woman to go into space twice, which is still really cool. With that, she got to use the robotic arm some more for exterior work, and after she came back from that mission, she helped the ground version of that robotic arm mimic the same that it works up in space, and that kind of blew me away as well. And third, she was going to go up for a third mission, and while her team was in training was when the tragic 1986 Challenger explosion happened, and that was cut short. That catastrophe did. And after that, she actually started to move past NASA, but still had a few things tying her back. So I'm going to put those here since they're NASA related, but this kind of intertwines with her post-NASA life as well. She was on the accident investigation boards for the Challenger in 1986 and Columbia in 2003. And after those, she became a part of the Augustine Committee, who helped define NASA's spaceflight goals. And before that, there was no such thing. So that was something that they all came up with for scratch and was a detailed plan that they could move forward with. And then her post-NASA life, she joined the Stanford University Center of International Security and Arms Control and became a professor at the University of California. She also co-founded a science outreach company called the Sally Ride Science, and it was to help fund and propel other science-based companies and startups. And on top of that, she also wrote 5 children's books. Sadly, Bride died in 2012 in July of pancreatic cancer that she fought for 17 months. But I was completely blown away researching this woman. Excuse me, sorry. She did so much for science and technology, and I know I breezed through a lot of things in this, but I really wanted to highlight all of her accomplishments and everything that she did in her lifetime. But she did even more things than I said, and I've further looked into. She's a very interesting woman and really did wonders for our science. But yeah, Sally Ride did wonderful things for NASA in their space program, and her legacy still lives on today.